I married Ethan 3 years ago, I thought I had won the lottery of love. He was charming, attentive, and seemed to genuinely support my interests. For as long as I can remember, my weekends were reserved for painting. My art group, a tight-knit circle of hobbyists, met every Saturday in a small but cozy studio downtown. It was my sanctuary, a place to unwind, create, and connect. Ethan had always been indifferent about my art, claiming he didn't get abstract paintings. But he never openly discouraged me from pursuing it, until last night. "We need to talk," he said after dinner, his tone heavier than usual. I put my fork down, my stomach twisting. "I've been thinking about us, about our future." "Okay," I said, leaning in. "I think it's time to let go of distractions." "Distractions?" I repeated, confused. "Your art," he clarified, "and those friends of yours. We're at a point where we need to prioritize building a life together. Real things, not paint and coffee dates." The words hit me like a slap. My art, my friends, were not just hobbies. They were integral to who I was. "You're serious?" I asked, hoping this was some poorly thought-out joke. "I'm dead serious. You've spent enough time on it. It's childish, don't you think? We're adults. It's time to grow up." I didn't respond immediately. A part of me wanted to scream, to defend myself, but another part of me wondered where this was coming from. Why now? Over the next week, Ethan's request lingered like a storm cloud. Every time I brought it up, he dismissed it, saying we'd already discussed it, but we hadn't. My attempts to understand his reasoning were met with walls of vague answers. "I'm just thinking long-term," he'd say, or "you'll see it's for the best." Meanwhile, I found myself withdrawing from my art group. I told them I was busy. That work had piled up, but in truth, I was ashamed to admit what was happening at home. My friends, especially Mia, my closest confidant, sensed something was off. "You're not yourself lately," she said during one of our calls. "What's going on?" I wanted to tell her everything but couldn't. Admitting it felt like giving it power. At home, Ethan's behavior grew stranger. He began questioning my whereabouts even when I was just running errands. "Who are you with?" he'd ask, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. The man I married was slipping away, replaced by someone I barely recognized. One Saturday, I decided to go to the studio despite Ethan's disapproval. I needed the escape, the connection, the normalcy. The moment I walked in, the familiar scent of turpentine and the sight of easels filled me with relief. My friends greeted me warmly, and, for the first time in weeks, I felt like myself again. But my peace was short-lived. Halfway through the session, my phone buzzed relentlessly. "Ethan, where are you?" his text read. I ignored it, focusing on the canvas in front of me. Minutes later, the door to the studio slammed open. Ethan stood there, his face a mixture of anger and disbelief. "We need to talk. Now," he demanded. Embarrassed and furious, I stepped outside with him. "What are you doing here?" I hissed. "I thought we agreed you were done with this." "No, you decided that, not me." The argument escalated, his voice rising, mine shaking. When I returned to the studio, my friend's concerned looks said it all. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. That night, Ethan and I had our biggest fight yet. He accused me of prioritizing my hobby over our marriage. I accused him of trying to control me. The shouting ended with him storming out, leaving me in tears. The next day, Mia came over unannounced. "Talk to me," she said, pulling me into a hug. Her support gave me the courage to open up. "It's not just about the art," I confessed. "It's everything. He's not the man I married." Mia listened patiently, her face a mix of empathy and concern. "This isn't just a rough patch," she said finally. "It sounds controlling. You deserve better." Her words planted a seed of doubt in my mind. Was Ethan's behavior crossing a line? Had I been blind to red flags all along? Weeks passed, and Ethan's demands grew more unreasonable. He wanted access to my phone, questioned my every move, and even suggested I quit my job to focus on the marriage. One evening, while cleaning out an old drawer, I found a journal I had kept early in our relationship. Reading through it, I was struck by how different things had been. Ethan had once been supportive, even encouraging. What had changed? Then it hit me. This wasn't about me or my art. It was about control. Ethan's insecurities, whatever their root, were manifesting in ways that stifled me. The realization was both heartbreaking and liberating. I knew I couldn't live like this. With Mia's help, I began exploring my options. I spoke to a therapist who validated my feelings and helped me see the situation for what it was. I started saving money discreetly, preparing for the possibility of leaving. The final straw came when Ethan gave me an ultimatum. Him or my art. For the first time in months, I felt clarity. "I choose me," I said, handing him the divorce papers I'd been too afraid to serve. The months that followed were challenging but also empowering. I moved into a small apartment, returned to my art group, and even sold a few paintings. My friends, especially Mia, were my rock. Therapy helped me heal, and slowly I began to rediscover myself. Ethan tried to reach out, apologizing and promising to change, but I knew better. My happiness wasn't negotiable. Looking back, I realize how easy it is to lose yourself in the name of love. But I also learned that true love doesn't demand you give up the things that make you whole. And for that lesson, I'm grateful.